Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Oh Shit, I'm a Mom podcast. Thank you for joining us for another episode. Please bear with us as I had some technical difficulties with my camera. So, in most of this episode, you will get to see my beautiful co host, and I will pop in somewhere in the middle. We hope you enjoy it.
All right, so this is our second episode of Oh Shit, I'm a Mom podcast. So today we're talking all things routines. Pretty much, okay.
Which I'm not very good at.
Me either. You're better at it than I am. I think this will be great because you have routines and I have no routine. None.
I try my best to make routines and try to stick to them. It's hard to, especially when you have small kids. It's very, very hard.
It is. And see, I'm a person who's all over the place anyway in life. I can't be on time for anything.
Neither can I, so don't feel bad. I'm always late.
Oh my God.
There was a point in a time where my family used to tell me 30 minutes early to show up places because I'm always late.
That is so funny. Okay, so let's dive in. If we're going to do routines, you want to dive into breastfeeding or you want to dive into sleeping first? Which one do you want to tackle?
Let's do breastfeeding first.
Okay, let's go there. I'm going to let you jump it off.
Okay, so I'm going to go into kind of my story on breastfeeding, let you do your thing too, and then we can go off of that if you want.
Yeah.
So I didn't breastfeed but 2 weeks with Natalie. Now with Willow, I breastfed up till she was 11 months old and she stopped breastfeeding. She did not want it anymore. And I don't know if it was because she kept biting me and I kept getting on to her for biting me. And she was just like, well, fine, I'm not going to, have it anyway. So we ended up having, because I didn't want to start her on formula because it would have been so I tried to start her on regular milk and she hated it. So I ended up having to go with half almond milk, half regular milk. And she seemed to like that. And now she drinks regular milk. It was like she turned a year old and she was like, oh, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be drinking.
I'm a big girl.
Oh, yeah. So it was very hard for me. Now, I think you breastfed both of your kids, right?
Yeah.
How long did you breastfeed Charlotte for?
So 18 months with Charlotte, I went, and she would still be on the boob, probably to this day if I would let her. So,
right. Every baby is different. That's what I'm learning.
They are. And so breastfeeding for me has been a journey because I'm the first person in my family to ever breastfeed. And I think on both of the dad's sides as well, Charlotte's dad and then Jude's dad, it's new to everybody kind of, right? We're all used to these bottle-fed formula babies, which a fed baby is all that matters. But for me, it's just so much easier to just, I don't know, just pop the thing in there instead of having to prep and everything. I don't know.
For sure.
So I just never, that was always my first consideration was
especially when you have a baby that doesn't sleep.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Willow had so much trouble sleeping in the beginning, and finally I was able to just kind of lay her down in her bed after she was fed and turn her little sound on, and she was perfectly fine. She just wanted to be left alone. Natalie was the complete opposite.
Both of my kids are opposite than Willow. Willow's the golden child.
I'm very blessed. I'm very, very blessed with Willow. Because they say the second one is the troubled child.
They do. Just wait until she grows up. She might give you a run for your money.
She's a spitfire right now. She's a mess, but so fun.
That's good.
And so, so with breastfeeding, I didn't know a lot about breastfeeding at all. My aunt, she works in the labor and delivery department of Unity, so she was able to be there with me through the births of my kids, which was amazing. And she was able to kind of, teach me a couple of things, but I also looked up things on my own. And I learned that, if you're trying to pump, the flench size is a big, big deal, because if it's too big, it gets too much of your boob in there and it just doesn't suck properly. So that was one of the things, and I know that you can order them on Amazon. It has like a size chart, and it has like a couple of different ones that they'll send you, and you can see which one is like catered to your size.
Right.
Which I don't know if a lot of moms know that or not, but it really helped me.
I think pumping is it's a journey, and I think a lot of moms experience negative journeys from pumping. I did not have a good experience with pumping. Luckily, I've been able to stay home with both of my kids, at least until they're done breastfeeding. So I exclusively breastfeed for the most part, besides having that little bit of a stash just in case, you know, I go somewhere and they're with someone. But, and tell me if you relate to this, because with my experience of having exclusively breastfed babies, they reject the bottles. They reject them. They will not. They're like, that's not it. It's not temp. It's not good. I don't want it. Until mom gets back, they will starve themselves. It's crazy.
Yes. Now Willow, she, you know, the first couple of times she had a bottle, she didn't really like it. But after that, she was fine. But like you, I didn't do the bottle too many times. Like she was always on tap. And I'll tell you what my breaking point was for pumping. Was we had a huge storm come through, and it knocked out our electricity, and I had a huge, not huge, but a pretty good, it was huge for me. It was huge for me. Because I've never done this before.
It matters. This is work.
Yes. And I even tried to like bag everything up and take it somewhere else and put it in the fridge, and it just all ruined. And it was like, I mean, it was quite a bit of breast milk, and I was like, you know what? All of that hard work, I'm done. So I exclusively breastfed pretty much. Now I did have a couple of just on hand and freezer, but yeah, that was my breaking point. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. It
is literally, I could cry whenever a little bit is spilled. It's like, I literally pumped that. I worked hard for that. Like, oh my
and then trying to freeze it, and then trying to like, you know, have someone watch Willow, and then you explain to them like, just break a piece off, pop it, you know, in a bottle, put it on the stove, double boil it, don't pop it in the microwave because it just makes it too hot.
Yes,
and it's hard to explain to people who haven't breastfed how important it is not to waste it.
Yes. They're like, it's just milk. Like,
hold on just one second. Natalie's trying to FaceTime me right now. I'm going to text her back real quick and be like, I'll call you back in just a second.
Okay. Is she with her dad? Or she is. Charlotte's with her dad too right now, so.
Yeah, she is, and this is the day 3, so I dropped her off Sunday, and yeah, the last time I talked to her, she was playing with her bunny that she has, so she's having a random time.
Good. So whenever you did start your breastfeeding journey with Natalie, when did you start it again? You only did it for like 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I wasn't in the right mindset. I was 19 when I had Natalie. I was still very young. It wasn't too long after that I turned 20. But I wasn't in the right headspace. I didn't have the right people around me, you know, at the time to just help me on that journey. So I kind of felt alone. You know, Natalie's dad went into the military 3 weeks after I had Natalie, so he wasn't there either. And it was just a lot for me to, you know, do. And I just I didn't feel comfortable with it at the time. Truthfully too, I didn't feel comfortable with it. And and that was a decision, you know, that I had to make. I was only, every time I would pump, I would only get like that much, and I was like, well, if I'm only getting that much, then she's only getting that much, and now I know that you will produce as much as they need. And I mean, and that's something that I've learned over the years, and I had no idea before.
It's a learning experience, 100%. So did you like breastfeed from the hospital, and then for like that first 2 weeks, and then it just kind of fizzled out between you guys? Okay. And then so for me, my experience like with the hospital, it was okay. So, you know, you had your aunt, right, to go off of with experience and kind of learning and walking that route together. I had no one. So I was trying to study super hard, and I was going like Cersei. They offer classes for new moms and stuff. So I went to a few of the classes, and you know they tell you all these different ways how to breastfeed and stuff, and it's so easy, and like you go nose down to the baby in the mouth and all this stuff. And so then when baby came, and you know, and I wasn't prepared for this, I don't think, whenever I had her, because you go through all that hard work of getting them here, earth side, right? It's a lot on the body. And then immediately after having the baby, they're like, you know, feed time. Baby to chest, like start feeding. And I remember we did that for, it felt like 3 hours, but it wasn't. I know it was only like an hour, but I was just ready for it to be over. Like, can I just have a minute, you know, to just gather myself? And it's so important though for baby to eat, and they want them to start, and they just push it on you. So going in the second time, I kind of knew that was coming, and that was better for me. But, and I had him in Conway, so it wasn't, I don't know, it was different. They didn't push it so heavily, where it was like for that first hour we fed, it was kind of like, okay, you know, introduce baby to the breast, and if he takes it, great. If he doesn't, he will soon. You know, like he inhaled some of the fluids coming out a little bit or something, and so he was kind of full off of that, they explained. I don't know. It was a lot, and I don't know if all moms are prepared for that. That some locations, depending where you're having your baby, they push that baby to chest heavy. It was my first time, and so I had all these nurses like grabbing on my boobs and just, you know, touching all over me. Like you have been over touched for the past however long it took you to get that baby out. And you're still touching me.
Oh, I know it. That was the same way for me. Whenever I had Natalie, I had a lactation nurse come in, and she, like, you know, I'm a pretty modest person, and she just like grabbed my, I mean, I know she was trying to help, but still, like you said, like, you're already overtouched, you're already overworked, your body's already tired, and it was just a lot. Now with Willow, it wasn't like that. I think that I did have a lactation nurse come in, but it wasn't like it was being forced. Plus, I already knew that I was going to breastfeed, so I don't know. It was very different with my second one too.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it is. It's because they're like, the first one, they know you're new, and it's like, I don't know, you're trying to be helpful. I understand that, but it's just, please let a mom.
Give me a little bit. Give me a little bit.
A little bit. And with him, and see with Charlotte, that was another difference that I had. Like with Charlotte, they didn't even mention formula to me, right? You know, it was just like, you're wanting to breastfeed, awesome, great, you'll get it down. But in Conway, where I had him, I remember I had a few people, nurses, the lactation nurse, she didn't, but actual RN nurses, they were kind of like, well, if he doesn't pick up his feeding, or if he doesn't do this, you know, by the time you leave, then we do have the option for you to give him a little bit of formula, you know, like those preemie bottles or whatever they have, like pre-made ones. And he wasn't a preemie. They were just like, just to give him a little bit so he's not getting hydrated or anything. And for me, I'm like such an adamant no, like I'm breastfeeding. I'm adamant about it. And so that didn't set well with me either. It's like, and knowing as a second time mom who has breastfed another child 18 months straight, you know, your milk doesn't come in like that. And so that was really frustrating for me. It was like, this is colostrum I'm producing right now, you know, and it's like little itsy bits. And I don't think I was always prepared for that aspect either, that you're going to have a hungry baby when you come home, because you're not producing a lot. Yeah, you are producing what baby needs, and colostrum's so much more filling and thicker than the breast milk even is, but you're going to have an upset crying baby. And I know with Charlotte, I didn't know that was even a thing. Didn't even know that existed. And that was almost my breaking point, coming home with her in like day 3 of just the late night, screaming, crying, comfort nursing, just, you know, trying to build my supply. And I didn't know what she was doing. I almost broke. I did. I was like, get the formula out. We're giving the baby a bottle.
Right.
I don't know what else to do. And luckily I couldn't figure out how to prep the formula. So she got stuck with the boob still. And we got past it though, you know?
Right.
And so then Jude came home, and day 2, it was miserable. It was misery. He was screaming, he was crying, and his dad had never experienced that. And so he did talk me into, because he was just like, I need to know he's eating. And he was, you know, he was having a mental breakdown, because dads, when mom's breastfeeding, dads want to fix things, right?
Right,
and
exactly.
they can't fix anything, because it's just it's not their job. And so he did end up giving Jude a little bit of formula. And I remember I was so mad. I was just so mad because I didn't want him to have any formula. But he was soothed. He was after that, you know, and he went to sleep. So I think...
I'm sorry. Natalie's trying to FaceTime me again.
No, you're totally okay. She wants to talk to her mama.
Let me... I think I asked if she was okay, because she usually isn't like
FaceTiming back to back. Yeah.
Right.
Charlotte's FaceTiming me a lot too since she's been gone with Dad. So I totally understand.
Well, Natalie hasn't been. She's been with me for the past month, so I'm sure she's missing everybody here.
Yeah, for sure. And feeling a little out of place, I'm sure too, with not being around.
Well, this isn't live on Facebook, so I'll share a couple of more things that I usually wouldn't on just Facebook Live. Her dad really hasn't been a part of her life in the past month, so I'm sure she's confused, and it's just frustrating. It's just very frustrating.
Yeah.
So
she has a lot of feelings. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, kids' feelings matter. But then so I think with my third one, because I plan on having more. Right, I'm the crazy one. I'm the crazy friend who wants to have more. I think
it's awesome.
I would totally recommend people, and I would even be prepared to use formula a little bit in the beginning, or get some donor milk. I'm not a big fan of donor milk. I don't know why. I feel like this is my job, and this is something, I don't know, to each their own, right? It's just not my thing. I guess I get a little jealous. Like, it's supposed to be my milk.
Well, yeah. Right, exactly. And you can't truly trust anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you can test the milk all you want to, but you truly don't know if they're eating right, or if, you know, it's just something that I didn't want to have to worry about.
Yeah.
So I had formula like on standby just in case I needed it, and Willow refused to drink. And I mean, there's a bunch of different snacks that you can make and that help produce more milk. And you know, I think protein and water is what I've heard is the best thing that you can do for producing more breast milk. So that would be my 2 cents on that.
Okay.
What about you?
You know me, I'm a very minimalistic girl. I am just super minimalistic. I'm like, really all you need is baby. Just get baby, drink your water every day, drink a load of water, and you're going to produce that milk. If you're pumping, you might get discouraged and think, oh no, I'm not producing enough, I have this much. But 2, you might have the wrong flange size, like you mentioned, and you're not getting a good suction going. And it's not getting the milk out correctly. I don't think people need to run and buy a $300 breast pump in general, unless you know.
I don't either.
Yeah, I did. I invested in that with him because I thought I was going back to work. That didn't end up being the case. So unless you know I am for sure going back to work, and I'm gonna need this when I'm at work, don't run and invest. Maybe wait until baby comes. Save yourself $300. And then make that decision. That's something I wish I would have waited a little bit on, instead of thinking, oh, I needed this. Because really, I needed probably $300 for diapers instead of...
Well, it's a learning experience. Being a mom in general is such a learning experience.
It is.
And that's it. And it's a learning experience with each kid that you have, too.
It is.
So
totally.
There's no rule book.
No. And I think postnatals. Finish your prenatals out and take your postnatals. And that's really all you need. If you are, you know, wait and see how you produce. If you leak, I find just having my bra, like if I do leak, it doesn't usually come through my shirt, you know what I mean? And make sure you're showering, even when it feels like you don't have the time, you gotta shower, because that is how babies get the rush. And then wiping the mouths out and all that good stuff. I think that's something that can get lost in the mix of being a mom and trying to juggle and be there. It's like, I know for the first month, you're probably not going to shower a lot, but after that,
well, you still have to take care of yourself too, and taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your baby. So it's definitely a hard thing to remember to do, but it's definitely something that needs to be done.
It is. It's like, when's the last time I took a shower? It might have been like 4 days now. You know, it does. The days just slip by because you're focusing on how to keep this human alive. But that's really all the, you know, and then chapped nipples and stuff. The only time I've experienced those is from pumping. It just doesn't have that lactation, I don't guess, like baby's mouth does. And so it dries it so much. So yeah, that's my biggest thing to women is like, if you feel like you need those things, okay, invest in them if they give you safety and security and it makes you feel good. But otherwise, if you want to save some money, like, just wait until baby gets there to invest in anything other than baby. I mean, that's just really all you need. But yeah, so most importantly though, all that matters is that baby is fed, whether you breastfeed, bottle, formula, pump,
very true,
whatever. Just let some pressure go. And I think too, people think like with lactation and stuff, the food, and I don't know, I've played with some of them, but I've never noticed, sometimes it's like a placebo effect. You know what I mean? It's like if you have this, you all of a sudden notice, oh my goodness, there's milk there. But it's like, really, there was milk there. You just felt like something else happened because you drank that drink or ate that food. Or
That's what I was going to say too. Like, I feel like it's a lot of in your head. And some, it may work for some people. I'm not doubting it by any means, but it's just, I found that it didn't work for me. I tried a couple of different methods, and it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But I give props to who drink it. So, you know, I did try with her a little bit, but she refused to drink it. So I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Strictly boob it is.
That's what we're doing. I love that.
Just wanted it from the tap.
Yeah, and I would just so recommend though to anybody, like, just be prepared for that day 2, day 3, because it's going to be misery.
And I didn't even know that there are, like, after you are done with colostrum, that you have 2 separate types of breast milk. One that's thicker and one that's more watery.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Because I would pump and I would be like, it looks like water. And I would look it up online and be like, that's perfectly normal. Like, there's 2 different types. Sometimes the baby needs more of, you know, just being hydrated. And, you know, another one is when they are more full. I would notice more of it. Like more of the watery, like during the day, and then at night it would be thicker. So I don't know if that's normal for everybody or not.
I don't know. I've always noticed the colostrum, the yellow, and then the change to the thinner base. But with Charlotte, I didn't pump, so I really didn't know what was going on. And I think that's a super huge misconception that some people will start pumping from like the beginning, and I'm no expert, but from the women I have talked to who are like breastfeeding consultants and everything through the WIC program and through all that learning, because the second time I really didn't take any learning classes. I felt like I got this pretty much for the most part. We'll figure it out. Obviously it'll be a little different, and it was different with him. Charlotte was a pretty good latcher. She picked up right from the beginning. Jude, we had to use a nipple shield for like the first month and a half. Could not get that kid latched on for anything because he was so just like heavy saliva at the mouth, and he's still drooly. He's still so drooly. But he would just sit there and do like the crazy head tossing thing, you know, trying to get on and get so mad. But now we latch perfectly fine. But from the experience I've had with the consultants, they've always told me, like, don't go into breastfeeding and pumping. You know what I mean? Like doing that from day 1, because then you're going to overproduce. And that's whenever the mastitis and all the other nasty things come. And I think you don't even have to pump, you know, unless you need the stash.
Right.
I think a lot of people get that confused though, where they think they have to pump too. It's like, really, you don't. And your baby's probably not going to want it. It's probably going to be wasted for some type of reason, a disaster like you experienced, or your kid's just not going to want it.
Or you knock it over in the floor. I did that once too. Like, it's just...
It's a whole story.
And like I said, every baby is different. And that's something that, you know, I went into it thinking, you know, like you said, that I had to pump and breastfeed at the same time, and it almost ruined it for me because I felt overworked.
Yes.
I was like, you know, and I wasn't producing hardly anything, and then I would see all these videos of moms like pumping gallons full. Gallons, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? And then, you know, I learned not to compare myself to anybody because everybody's body is different, every baby is different. And, you know, my aunt, she was like, your body will produce what she needs, and if it doesn't, then you'll know. And I was just like, okay, well, I just have to kind of like just pray about it, keep my faith about it, and just keep going. And that's what I did. Yeah. And it's hard to do it though. It's so hard to do, especially when you don't have a support system behind you. You know, it's very, very hard.
It is.
It's something that you have to be very, very focused on.
It is. And I think that's something like how you said every experience is different with babies. You know, like with my daughter and having the right support and all that. Like with my daughter, I didn't have any kind of backlash with breastfeeding her, except from like my family, like my mom and stuff. They kind of all made snarky remarks like, you know, oh, she's like that because you breastfeed. Oh, like she's clingy because you breastfeed and stuff like that. But for my dad, there was no kind of fight back. It was, I think, a glorious thing for him because there was no work expected of him in that aspect. He didn't have to. Like, I remember he would want to play his video games and I would, you know, want a minute to not be touched by anybody just to get away for a minute. And it's like he would literally entice her to my boob to like distract her from where it was my problem. You know what I mean? So once she's seen it, it was my problem. But like with Jude, his dad wants to be so hands-on in aspects of like feeding and nurturing and having that bond. And so I think there was a lot of jealousy maybe in certain aspects with, I can't do that, and you're kind of taking that from me by breastfeeding.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Do you know how hard it is to sit back and have to ask to take a shower when your husband doesn't have to?
Yeah.
Like, especially when you're in the midst of, you know, you got baby on the boob and he's like, I'm going to go take a shower, and you're like,
of course you're
okay, I haven't taken one in 2 days, but okay, have fun.
Yes, and they don't think about that. And then, you know, they're stressed out because they're having to console a baby that's not really necessarily consolable because it just wants to be on its mom's boob. Or maybe they are clingy because they're breastfed. You know, whatever it is what it is. But then it feels like that is kind of, you know, it's kind of a dart at you. Like, well, I can't take care of the baby because I don't have what it needs. And it's like, just figure it out for a minute. Like, rock him, listen to him cry. Like, if you think that baby doesn't not cry for me just because I have a boob, you're so wrong. Like, a mom.
Well, and it was a learning experience for me because, like you know, Chandler was more hands-on with Willow than, you know, I didn't really have that with Natalie. And he's a very touchy person. I swear I am not a very touchy person at all. And that's something that I've had to really work with. And so, you know, I had to really just do some breathing techniques and be like, okay, just sit beside me and just be here. Like, that's all I need you to do is just be here. And so he was also good about letting me have my space too. And, you know, oh my gosh, there's a spider over there. I'm not going to get it.
I don't like it.
One of the things that I wanted to touch on, which I don't know if you know this or not, but they have washable breast pads. Have you ever used any of those?
You know, okay, so I haven't really ever used breast pads in general. I am just, I don't know. I've never really needed them either. Like, I might leak a few times if baby hasn't fed in a while, but that's more in the nighttime, you know what I mean? When I wake up. So
yeah,
I was like that in the beginning, and then toward the end, like, I didn't leak at all. But that was the last thing that I wanted to touch on. That's what I had written down here, because I think washable breast pads are freaking amazing, because if you do leak, then it's easy cleanup.
And because a lot of people, I mean, there's people out there that are just overproducers naturally. And if a baby, I did leak one time with Charlotte when we went to her, like, first week appointment, there was a baby crying, and my ducts just started working. And I was like, oh no. But for the most part, I have never really needed them. What about some helpful, like, what other things would you think that people could actually use to buy for their breastfeeding journey besides breast pads, reusable ones?
I've read, which I didn't have that bad of, like, chapped nipples or anything like that, so I didn't have to worry about that, but I know some people do, and I know coconut oil helps out tremendously, so, and that's also edible, so you don't have to worry about having to clean it off every time you put it on there whenever you're feeding baby. That would be a huge, huge thing. And I mean, there's a bunch of different snacks that you can make and that help produce more milk. And you know, I think protein and water is what I heard is the best thing that you can do for producing more breast milk. So that would be my 2 cents on that.
Okay.
What about you?
You know me, I'm a very minimalistic girl. I am just super minimalistic. I'm like, really all you need is baby. Just get baby, drink your water every day, drink a load of water, and you're gonna produce that milk. If you're pumping, you might get discouraged and think, oh no, I'm not producing enough, I have this much. But 2, you might have the wrong flange size, like you mentioned, and you're not getting a good suction going. And it's not getting the milk out correctly. I don't think people need to run and buy a $300 breast pump in general, unless you know.
I don't either.
Yeah, I did. I invested in that with him because I thought I was going back to work. That didn't end up being the case. So unless you know I am for sure going back to work and I'm going to need this when I'm at work, don't run and invest. Maybe wait until baby comes. Save yourself $300 and then make that decision. That's something I wish I would have waited a little bit on instead of thinking, oh, I needed this. Because really, I needed probably $300 for diapers instead
of. Well, it's a learning
experience. Being a mom in general is such a learning experience, and that's it. And it's a learning experience with each kid that you have too. So there's no rule book.
No, and I think
postnatals. Finish your prenatals out and take your postnatals, and that's really all you need. If you are, you know, wait and see how you produce. If you leak. I find just having my bra, like if I do leak, it doesn't usually come through my shirt, you know what I mean? And make sure you're showering, even when it feels like you don't have the time, you gotta shower because that is how babies get the rush. And then wiping the mouths out and all that good stuff. I think that's something that can get lost in the mix of being a mom and trying to juggle and be there. It's like, I know for the first month, you're probably not going to shower a lot, but after that, make sure.
You still have to
take care of yourself too, and in taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your baby. So it's definitely a hard thing to remember to do, but it's definitely something that needs to be done, for sure.
It's like when's the last time I took a shower? It might have been like 4 days now. You know, it does. The days just slip by because you're focusing on how to keep this human alive. But that's really all the, you know, and then chapped nipples and stuff. The only time I've experienced those is from pumping. Pumping, it just doesn't have that lactation, I don't guess, like baby's mouth does. And so it dries it so much. So yeah, that's my biggest thing to women is like, if you feel like you need those things, okay, invest in them if they give you safety and security and it makes you feel good. But otherwise, if you want to save some money, like, just wait. Just wait until baby gets there to invest in anything other than baby. I mean, that's just really all you need. But yeah, so most importantly though, all that matters is that baby is fed, whether you breastfeed, bottle, formula, pump,
very true,
whatever. Just let some pressure go. And I think too, people think like with lactation and stuff, the food, and I don't know, I've played with some of them, but I've never noticed. Sometimes it's like a placebo effect. You know what I mean? It's like if you have this, you all of a sudden notice, oh my goodness, there's milk there. But it's like, really, there was milk there. You just felt like something else happened because you drank that drink or ate that food. Or
That's what I was going to say too. Like, I feel like it's a lot of in your head, and some, it may work for some people. I'm not doubting it by any means, but it's just, I found that it didn't work for me. I tried a couple of different methods, and it just wasn't for me. But I give props to the women who can pump full on big old gallon jugs of breast milk. Way to go, because that's a blessing for sure.
It is, and I mean, and maybe they can be donors, right, in the future. And
Right, exactly.
help somebody out in that aspect that needs it. All right, well, do you want to wind it down? We'll call it for the day so you can go and tackle Miss Willow and call Natalie back.
Down now. But yeah, I think that's it for us today. And then next week we'll talk about sleeping routines.
Yeah.
We'll conquer that.
Might be a whole nother
Episode 2.
Right,
Exactly. Breastfeeding probably will go hand in hand. We'll probably have a little bit more to cover on that. But yeah, I think today's been a good run for sure.
I think
It's been great. This is our second episode, so please remember that, guys.
Episode
Number
number
2.
Episode 2, breastfeeding, just the real and raw to it, right?
for sure.
Yeah, so thanks for hanging out on our Oh Shit, I'm a Mom podcast. This is Tay.
This is Kay. And we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.